Alright, so today we're going to be covering the fairy tale Hans in Luck. Anyway, I hope you're having a good day. Without any ado, some men are born to good luck. All they do or try to do comes right. All that fails to them is so much gain. All these gains are sworn. All their cards are trumps. Toss them which way you will, they will toss like poor puss alight their legs, and only move on so much the faster. The world may very likely not always think of them as they think of themselves, but what they care for the world. What can it know about that matter? One of the lucky beings was neighbor Hans. 7 long years he had worked hard for his master. At last he said, "Master, my time is up. I must go to see my poor mother once more. So pray me, pay me my wages and let me go." And the master said, "You have been faithful and good servant, Hans, so your pay shall be handsome." Then he gave him a lump of silver bag as his head. Hans took out his pocket kerchief and put the piece of silver into it and threw it on his shoulder and jogged off onto the road homewards. As he went lazily on, dragging one foot after another, a man came into sight, trotting gaily along on the capital horse. "Ah," said Hans aloud, "what a fine thing is to ride on horseback. There he sits easy and happy as he is home in the chair on the fireside. He trips against no stone, saves shoe leather, and gets on hardly he knows how." Hans did not speak so softly, but the horseman heard it all, and said, "Well, friend, why do you go on foot then?" "Ah," said he, "I have this load to carry. Be sure it is silver, but it is heavy, and I can't hold it up my head, and I must know it hurts my shoulders sadly. What do the makings serve in exchange?" And the horseman said, "I give you my horse, and you shall give me the silver, which will save you a great deal of trouble in carrying such a heavy load about with you." "With all my heart," said Hans, "but you are so kind to me. I must tell you one thing. You will have a weary task to draw that silver about you." However, the horseman got up, took the silver, helped Hans, gave him the bridle in one hand and the whip in the other, and he said, "When you want to go very fast, smack your lips together and cry, 'Jip!'" Hans was delighted as the horse drew himself up, and he squared his elbows, and he turned his toes and cracked his whip, and rode merrily off, 1 minute whistling merrily a tune, and another singing, "No cares and no sorrow, no fig for a morrow, we'll laugh and be merry, sign down the dairy." After a time he thought he would like to go a little faster, so he smacked his lips and cried, "Jip!" Away went the horse at full gallop, but before Hans knew what he was about, he was thrown off and lay on his back by the roadside. His horse would have ran off if a shepherd who, come by driving a cow, had not stopped it. Hans soon came to himself and got his legs again. Sadly vexed, said to the shepherd, "This riding is no joke. A man who has luck on a beast stumbles and flings him off. If I would break my neck. However, I'm off now once for all. I like your cow now a great deal better than the smart beast that played me this trick, and has spoiled my best coat, and yet this puddle, which by the smells is not very nosegay." I don't know what that word means. "One can walk along one's leisure behind that cow, keep good company, and have milk, butter, and cheese every day in the bargain. What would I have to give you such a prize?" "Well," said the shepherd, "if you are so fond of her, I will change my cow for your horse. I like to do good to my neighbors, even though I lose by myself." "Done," Hans said merrily. "What noble heart this good man has," he thought. Then the shepherd jumped upon the horse and wished Hans and the cow good morning and rode away. Hans brushed his coat and wiped his face and rested a while, and then drove off, his cow quietly, and through his bargain was a very lucky one. "If I have a piece of bread, and certainly shall always be able to get that, I can, wherever I like, eat my butter and cheese with it. And when I am thirsty, I can milk my cow and drink the milk. What more can I wish for?" When he came to an inn, he halted, ate up his bread, and gave away his last penny for a glass of beer. And when he rested himself, he set off again, driving his cow towards his mother's village. When the heat grew as soon as noon came on, till last he found himself on a wide heath it could take him more than an hour to cross. He began to be so hot he parched his tongue and clave on the roof of his mouth. "I can find a cure for this," he thought. "Now I will milk my cow and quench my thirst." So he tied to the stump of the tree and held his leathern cap and milk into it, but not a drop was to be had. Who would have thought that this cow, which was to bring him milk, butter, and cheese, was all the time utterly dry? You ever thought about the origin of that phrase, utterly dry? Hans had not thought of looking for that. And then when he was looking at milk and managing the matter very clumsily, the uneasy beast began to think him very troublesome. At last gave him such a kick in the head and knocked him down as he lay a long while senseless. Luckily, a butcher soon came by with a pig and a wheelbarrow. "What is the matter with you, my man?" said the butcher. Hans told him what had happened and how he was dry, and he wanted milk from his cow, but he found the cow was too dry too. Then the butcher gave him a flask of ale, saying, "There, drink and refresh yourself. Your cow will give you no milk. Don't you see she is an old beast, good for nothing but slaughterhouse?" "Alas, alas," said Hans, "who would have thought it? What a shame to take my horse and give me a dry cow. If I kill her, what will she be good for? I hate cow beef. It is not tender enough for me. If I were a pig now, that fat gentleman you are driving along with his ease, one would have to do something with it. At any rate, make sausages." "Well," said the butcher, I don't like to say no when one is asked for a kind neighborly thing. To please you, I will change and give you my fine fat pig for your cow. Heaven reward you for my kindness and self-denial," said Hans, as he gave the butcher the cow, and taking the pig off the wheelbarrow, drove it away, holding by the string that was tied to his leg. Is it just me, or is he getting shortchanged every single time? Maybe. So he jogged on what seemed like the right of him. He had met with some misfortunes, to be sure, but he had now been well repaid for all. How could it be otherwise with such a traveling companion as he had got? The next man he met was a countryman carrying a fine white goose. The countryman stopped to ask what o'clock. This led to further chat, and Hans told him with all the luck he had so many bargains, and how the whole world went gay and smiling to him. The countryman then began to tell his tale, and when he was going to take the goose to the christening, he said, "Feel how heavy it is, and how it is only 8 weeks old. Whoever roasts it and eats it will find plenty of fat upon it, as lived so well." "You're right," said Hans, as he waved his hand, "but if you talk the fat, the pig is no trifle." Meanwhile, the countryman began looking grave, and he said, "Hark ye," said, "my worthy friend, you seem to be the sort of fellow, so I can't help doing the kind thing. Your pig may get some scrape in the village I just came from. The squire has had a pig stolen out of his sty. I was dreadfully afraid when I saw you and got the squire's pig. If you have had them catch him, will it be a bad job for you? The least they will do is to throw you into the horse pond. Can you swim?" Poor Hans, sadly frightened. "Good man," cried he, pray get me out of the scrape. I know nothing, for the pig was either bred or born, but he may have been the squire's for aught I cannot tell. You know the country better than I do. I take my pig and give you the goose. I ought to have something of the bargain," said the countryman. "I give a fat goose for a pig indeed. 'Tis not everyone would do such for so much for you in that. However, I will not be hard upon you or horrible." Then he took the string in his hand and drove the pig off the side path. And Hans went his way homewards free from care. "After all," he said, "that chap is pretty well taken in. I don't care whose pig it is, but wherever it came from the very good friend to me, I have the very best of the bargain. First there was the capital roast, and the fat will find me goose grease for 6 months, and then there will all be beautiful white feathers. I have put them in my pillow, then I am sure I shall sleep soundly without rocking. How happy my mother will be! Talk of pig indeed! Give me a fine fat goose." Then he came to the next village. He saw a scissor grinder on the wheel, working and singing, "O'er hill, over dale, so happy I roam. Work light and live well, and the world is my home. Then who so blithe as merry as I?" Hans stood looking on for a while, and at last said, "You must be well off, Master Grinder. You seem so happy at your work." "Yes," said the other, "mine is a golden trade. The good grinder never puts his hand into his pocket without finding money in it. But where do you get that beautiful goose?" "I did not buy it. I gave a pig for it." "And where did you get the pig?" "I gave a cow for it." "And the cow?" "I gave a horse for it." "And the horse?" "I gave a lump of silver as big as my head for it." "And the silver?" "Oh, I worked hard for 7 long years." "You have thriving well in the world. Here thither," said the grind. "Now you could find money in your pocket wherever be your hand. Your fortune would be made." "Very true, but how is it to be managed?" "How? Why, you must turn the grinder like myself," said the other. "You only want a grindstone, the rest will come to itself. Here's one that with a little worse for wear. I could not ask for more value of your goose. Will you buy?" "How can you ask?" said Hans. "I should be happiest man in the world if I could have money wherever I put my hand in my pocket. What could I want more? Here's this goose." "Now," said the grinder. He gave him a common rough stone that lay by his side. "This is the most capital stone. Do but work by it well enough, and you'll make an old nail cut out of it." Hans took the stone and went by his way as light as heart. His heart sparkled for joy, and he said to himself, "Surely I must have been born in a lucky hour. Everything I do or could want wishes for himself. People are so kind, they seem really to do as I like them, in favor of letting them make me rich and giving me good bargains. Meantime," He began to be tired and hungry too, for he had given away his last penny in joy at getting the cow. At last he could go no farther, for the stone tired him sadly, and he dragged himself to the side of the river, and he might drink water and rest for a while. So he laid the stone carefully on the side of the bank, but stopped down to drink, and he forgot it pushed a little while, and it rolled down the stream. For a while he watched it sinking deeper into clear water, then sprang up and danced for joy. Again it fell upon his knees and thanked heaven with tears and eyes so kindness, and happily giving away the only plague, the heavy stone. "How happy am I," he cried. "Nobody was ever so lucky as I." Then he got up with a light heart, free from all his troubles, and walked on till he reached his mother's house, and told her how very easy the road to good luck was. Anyway, hope you sleep well. Have a good night, bud.